Hi, how's everyone doing? This is like musical chairs.
Sorry, I haven't been here in 3 months. I set up the room and I was like, I don't know where, so I couldn't remember where anybody went. So then I went with voting members and officers up front and alternates and you down there. That makes sense.
Actually, that's how it, to me, it should be.
Made sense to me. So
I
I'm
love
like,
it.
all right, I can remember this thing to the picture with my phone. I'm like, okay, next month I will know. I remember members and officers up front, alternates and staff down there. We're good to go.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I've been sore this week. I'm not sure what I
Just
did,
overdoing it.
but yeah, I think probably it was just something that I just did something, didn't even realize I did it. Yeah, now it's like, okay, there's a sore, but overall it's doing really good. So
Good.
yep, it's good to have my dominant arm whole again.
Yeah, I bet.
Rough for a while.
Hi, John. I didn't know that was you blowing your horn. Like, who's blowing their horn at
That's
me?
why I did that. That's why I did it, because I figured that's a loaner, truck ever getting service,
Oh, okay.
and that's just a loaner vehicle. Get done here, then I go over. Hey, Randy.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, how are you? Hey, Cindy.
Hey.
Why he got fired? Coming up down there, like job site today, and I run the turnpike,
Oh,
and I get on for Washington.
yeah.
I got down around what they call Phoenix, Bill, Melbourne, from 29. And it took me an hour and 55 minutes
Wow.
to go from there to get on.
You guys gonna have apple dumplings this week?
Yeah,
Because
I think
I've been meaning to go in there and ask Linda, but I haven't.
Yeah, might want to check the apples are getting stores.
Wow.
Okay. I'll message.
Hi, Tammy. How are you
That's what I would
doing?
do. It's gonna be the best bet.
Peachy.
Yeah, I knew that from earlier today, but I didn't
How are you?
That's good. This is a.
Oh, this
This is an eye.
thank you. I printed out the other one and it was way too small. I'm like, well,
So did I.
It won't
I'm looking
do.
to vote my bifocal. This ain't
That's
working.
awesome.
this is great.
So this is
Thank you.
the eye easy version.
Mhm.
Next week. Right, yeah.
Because I think over in East Peak, we're hosting, right?
Yep.
I won't be there, but I'll have Jen there.
You decide to run out the year.
Right. Yeah.
How are you doing, Diane? Good, how are you? Good.
Hi, how are you? I know. I didn't talk to you hardly. I said I hardly talked to you at all today.
It's been sore for the last few years. Overall, yes. I am.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Give the weather.
We had thunderstorms 2 days before, and thunderstorms 2 days after.
It was, yeah, right.
And this was, I walked her down to the beach, there was thunder in the back.
I was thinking of you, I was hoping you guys had good weather.
Well, then good, you can have your.
Yeah.
Let me go for it. Well, then, Thursday, we'll be doing that lunch on Thursday.
Yeah.
Saturday's gonna be well, just go to it sometime on Thursday. Yeah, call Friday.
She's gonna send me a draft for it. Just didn't want to pop out. Yeah, she was walking. She's here to do, all of this for Very careful.
Hey, John. Hey, how you doing? Hey, Scott. We good?
How are
I think I saw you.
Okay, how you doing?
Doing fabulous.
I was, I think, good yourself. I am up there, you know, really wanting such as. Cottage. Well, it's actually cottage. Yeah. And I usually. And then I got it west. Back into my driveway, then when I look, I usually. Where it was stopped. Yeah. And I think it was you. I don't remember. That'd be on the left side. Okay. And I kind of glanced over, and I'm pretty sure it was you put your light on. Yeah. I didn't blow the horn. But you know, people are afraid of these. Especially when we go west.
How are you? Doing good. Doing good. You ready for Thanksgiving?
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be a treasure then. Good.
We're dog Christmas, so.
Okay. Very good.
How are you doing?
I am. So last year was COVID, so we didn't do Thanksgiving, but 2 years prior to that, I was in Central America doing mission trips. But Thanksgiving is my holiday.
Aw,
My brother does Christmas, my mom does Easter, so I'm excited to get back on our schedule.
good for you.
So it'll be
That'll
good.
be awesome. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Good, how are you? But I was coming in. I got got down.
Thank you.
I'm back.
Sir.
One extra. It's still
Thank you.
recording. I mean, it was literally 2 miles. They had a sign on it. Hey, Greg.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one's, yeah. And it was a destination.
This is just to go for the team. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order our Hempfield Area Fire Service Commission Board of Directors meeting for November 16th, 2021. to order. Begin by pledging allegiance. Moment of silence for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Benefit of Zoom, can you pull your mic up? There's 6 or 8 people on Zoom this evening. I'll give you that. I know.
Our first order of business will be approval of the September 28th meeting minutes.
I actually have a couple questions with it. When I was reading through, it's stated in the monthly CFO report that I inquired about the unit, or inquired how the unit would be financed and funded. It was actually Karen that asked that question. And then The answer, it says that Chief Cotmeyer noted that funding has not been finalized, but noted that the 90-10 split that was recently done for the Hempfield pumper purchase, what is that?
That was the one that was ordered previous. Prior to
what?
prior to this one, that was the one that was ordered back in when we were that, Josh. It's their original engine in Hempfield that was supposed to be replaced. It was prior to, had nothing to do with the one that malfunctioned.
Okay, what's the 90-10 though? What is that?
That was an agreement between the township and the fire department, a 90-10 split for them.
Okay.
The department
Okay,
itself, the volunteer department paid 10%.
Okay, because I just remember that the funding by Cindy's response was that it was to be determined.
Someone asked a question about that one, the original one. I don't recall who, but asked about the 90-10 or something, and I said that was a reference to that piece of equipment.
Well, I'd like in there that Cindy had stated that, that it was gonna be determined on how that pumper was gonna be financed.
Are these minutes recorded?
They, that was my, I guess, lead into the September recording is not on YouTube. It was never, the
There's no
sound was
audio.
never there.
Yeah, there's no audio.
Is there any way to fix that?
It just isn't there. It must have been on mute.
Okay. And then also the last sentence, motion by Mr. LaFever, second by Mr. Hummel, unanimously carried to acknowledge full support for the purchase of a reserve pumper unit and to accept the recommendation of the CFO. Is this the same motion that was brought to go to the borough? Or was there another motion that I missed? Because the motion that was brought was that the information was going to be taken back to the East Beach Borough to discuss your recommendations.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
But the motion, I thought the motion was carried to acknowledge full support for the purchase of a reserve pumper unit and to accept the recommendation of the CFO. The motion was to take it back to the Borough Council to discuss the recommendations of the CFO.
Correct.
Yes. So, just the way that's worded.
I don't recall that. Is everyone in agreement with that?
I recall that we made a motion to accept the CFO's recommendation on what pumper to buy.
Right.
Correct.
And then there was a motion to take it back to the East Beach
To the
Borough.
borough.
'Cause I wrote it
That's what the
down.
motion was, to take it back to Borough Council
Mhm. And I wrote it down.
for discussion.
And probably as well as township commissioner.
So, I mean, I wasn't at that meeting, unfortunately. So, I guess what's the issue here?
Well, I think the motion needs to be stated that it was a motion to also take it back to East Beach Borough for recommendations of the CFO. Just for documentation.
Is that what everybody?
Yeah, I mean, he would have to take it back to both municipalities to get funding.
Right. Okay.
I don't have any problem.
So you're changing it to reflect the fact that you're sending it back to the East Pete Borough and the township.
Right. Of the CFO's recommendations, absolutely.
And then backing up to your statement that you wanted to add regarding myself.
That the funding was going to be determined, TBD.
Right, Tammy did not ask that question, I did, and your response was TBD. I think that's what Tammy's trying to get at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to be corrected in the minutes here.
And the other thing was just a question, because I wasn't sure what the 90-10, what that was, was about.
know all that got in? Yeah.
Without any questions, corrections? Hearing none, entertain a motion for approval.
Of that those corrections be made.
If that's the motion you'd like to make, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Andy, you have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Craig. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
In terms of voting, in terms of motions, go by Steve. Voting members.
So that would be Tammy is a voting member.
Right, yeah,
I'm not a,
you're the alternate, so it has to come from one of your
Okay.
voting members.
Which one of the voting members would like to second it?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. I guess we'll just vote on it again. If there's no other questions, everyone in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Scott's going to abstain. Motion so carried. Okay, John, your report.
All right, provide a copy of the CFO report. Continue the fire chiefs meetings. We're actually gonna have one, we had one last one, we're gonna have one again, it's actually next Monday night. Again, that deals more with the operational type issues, and things along those lines. Received some of the, and reviewed some of the budgets for the separate fire departments. And, excuse me, sorry, and I am awaiting some of the budgets, and it simply comes down to, they're looking at getting a balanced budget, obviously, by the end of the year. So I don't have all of the budgets for 2022, but I've spoken to the treasurers, and they're gonna provide it as soon as possible, and then I can do some comparisons. But essentially, I have prior ones just to look at some overall costs for the departments. So I don't want to fuss at them. When they have them and they're balanced, then they'll be ready to go. We did have, again, which was kind of a sort of a short notice deal, but we finally did get into and did have tours of the hospital, the new hospital. All three departments were able to attend. It is still in kind of its infinite stages in the interior. So it's not really looking like a hospital yet, but it has some interior walls, or mainly the metal studs, that type of stuff. So it's not really in condition. For us to look at it from a structural perspective, fireproofing and all that kind of stuff, that's interesting to us, not really particularly interesting to everybody else. Yes.
I have a question. Was that just the 3 fire departments? Was any other groups included in the hospital tour?
No.
Okay. Are you gonna schedule for like the rest of the group?
Yeah, there were a couple things happened. The reason we were originally allowed to go back in was because of COVID. They had some COVID restrictions there, so they wanted to limit it to fire departments.
Okay.
And as time goes on, they want to open it up. And then we can do that, but they wanted us to get in quickly before they start closing things up.
Okay.
So hopefully that, and we couldn't even, because of the evening tours, they don't have lights up at the helipad yet. So like in the upper floors and some of the areas, we couldn't really get up there to even look at it ourselves, but that'll be forthcoming, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Again, if you have any questions, the other item on the list again is that the reserve apparatus arriving. I did receive the factory training from E1. The goal now is to go out to the departments and get with some of their training folks, go through the actual A to Z training that E1 provided, and then have the individual departments then go back and train their drivers to be able to drive and operate it. So the training will actually include everything from, the fluids to tilting the cab to, you name it, pretty much everything with the apparatus. And then the driver training, we're just gonna continue to follow basically the BFIS, the driver training program. It has been taken around to all departments. We're gonna get input. It's currently awaiting shelving. It's being fabricated. It's basic shelving to go in to mount the equipment. Once that's in, then we can take it around and get like final opinions of this should go here, this goes here, this works, this doesn't work, that type of stuff. So right now, as it's going around, they're just, which is actually a good idea, they used painter tape and put their suggestions and kind of stuck it on different areas to show what they thought was good and what maybe wasn't so good. It's designed to be generic, that it can go to any of the departments and be utilized. So it's not gonna be department specific, they can kind of make it a little more specific when it gets there, put on, take off what they want, but it's by design, it's kind of designed to be generic. Any questions? That's.
I have one. Is this, your report was September as well?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was like, I saw that it said they attended the finance and fundraising, and I was just like, did you meet tonight?
Yeah, that was our last one.
That was
Yeah,
September,
correct. Yeah.
okay, perfect. So this is September and October report, basically.
Okay, the committee report out. You wanna run down to them, John, or?
Yeah, the last meeting we had of the committees we had was a recruitment, or excuse me, a fundraising, funding committee. Essentially, that was the discussion there led to what I had been hoping to gain was looking at the individual fire department budgets. The goal of that is simply to look at what the actual cost is per fire department, and then what the overall cost is to fund the fire department, the fire service in all three departments. We have an idea, we can look at those, but again, we don't know, like from our perspective or even from your perspective in East Peak, sometimes when they get grants or they get funding to other sources, that type of stuff, we don't always see that. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So they get it and use it for their funding, and we don't really know it because we didn't pay it or whatever. So we want to see what the total cost is, what they pay out, what we pay out, what you pay out, all that type of stuff. Get a better handle of the fire service and the actual expense. From the apparatus committee, again, I think some of that, folks, we have to essentially, we have to take a pause and figure out what we're doing from an apparatus perspective. You have the sheet in front of you, the sheet that was provided was the 35 years, the one we originally discussed some time ago. And it's basically the same one. All the equipment is on here with the exception of, and these are all replacements. So in other words, these would be design replacements. The only one that's not listed on here would be Hempfield's tanker. And the reason that's not listed on here, that's going to be kind of a unique one. And I think that one's going to be more in line with possibly a re-chassis. The body, the tank, those types of things are in pretty good shape. And I think it would be more prudent to actually look at a re-chassis in that. Obviously, I'm not the expert on that, but I think all in all, I think that might be a better candidate for that. So that one's not on here, all the rest of the equipment. And it's essentially goes by age. It's what the committee and what everyone did prior to my arrival here, and I looked at it and reviewed it. It has to do with the mileage of the vehicle, the age of the vehicle, engine hours, motor hours, those types of things. And that's what it is. The pricing on here, folks, again, this is working with manufacturers. This is also working with some finance companies that finance this type of equipment. And the costs are actually like what we did with the Hempfield. It's a lease purchase type option. So you pay the payments for the period of term, and then you buy the vehicle at the end for $1. If it's a lemon, and you kind of don't want to get it, you don't have to. But you have the option of buying it at the end for $1. Again, going out beyond right now with what we're seeing in the industry, some of these are truly projections, and we won't know a little closer to the time. Some of them we shot a little high in the financing just simply because those are the current prices, and then based on a 3 or 5% increase every year over so many years. And it was, the prices again reflect sort of a kind for kind. So if it was the heavy rescue, that was the type of vehicle that we spec'd So if you have any questions, on the right is what it costs, what it would be a total cost if everything was replaced over the 35-year period. You can see that number. And then the average is what the average cost would be if we would do it on the replacement schedule. So the average annual cost would be roughly $470,000. And that would be to maintain that replacement schedule.
I'm sorry, which East Hempfield Township was not listed?
Hempfield, the Hempfield tanker,
Tanker.
yeah.
John, do you have any additional copies of those?
Yes.
Grab them online because we should.
This is the one, it's a little easier on the eyes.
Was the reserve pumper that was just purchased, was that financed?
That was not.
Anyone in the audience?
That one is though, Randy, that is listed, that would be,
You don't need one?
because it's purchased today, basically this year. So then that's plugged back into the schedule. So then that's the one that's red 69.2, and that's the one in red. So it's picked back up then if we were to do it in that fashion.
Got it.
And again, folks, this is basically like an NFPA schedule. It's a guideline. It's not something that has to be cast in stone. Essentially, we don't even know what's becoming more difficult and more apparent to us is the time frame of ordering these and actually getting them. Don't know how long that's going to last or if that's a forever thing now. So they're saying aerial device, and aerial device is up to 18 months before you would even see it. So you would order it 18 months later, it would appear, hopefully. And even the pumpers, they're taking, they used to take, what, Don, they were 6-7 months, and now they themselves are about a year. So you may have this in writing and it may be a schedule, and when you want to replace it, you hope it, but you may not get it in that time frame. So it just may happen that way.
When an order is placed, is there like a down payment that's made, or is it, how's the initial payment made?
It depends on the financing option. A lot of what the manufacturers are doing now is they want all their money up front. So essentially, you pay it, and you pay it by a certain time, and then what they'll do is they'll give you a fairly sizable discount for that apparatus. You can certainly not do that and wait. But again, it gives quite a substantial discount per apparatus.
And then, so then the department finances that, they go to a third party to finance that? Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's like just doing a car loan. You shop around. Pierce Manufacturing offers it. E1 offers it. We actually went with a third party. They were less expensive, so it pays to shop around. We got a better rate and a better term. Yes, ma'am.
So if it's paid in full in advance. is
Can you
that
please
like
use the mic for the people on
escrow?
Zoom?
I'm sorry.
The people on Zoom can't hear
I'm
you.
sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So the money that's paid in advance for a piece of apparatus or a truck, is that money held in escrow then by the?
Yeah, they basically, when it's done in that fashion, there's a performance bond. So in other words, we don't give them the money up front, and then we don't get it, or we get it, it's a lemon, or it just never really passes muster, because at the very end, you have to do an acceptance test. So it goes through some pretty rigorous tests there, and then we have to accept it. So we get to actually take a trip to see it and then accept it as it is. But yeah, so there's a performance bond, yes. Any other questions about this?
I do have a question going back to the finance committee. When will you have the budget for the fire departments completely done, that all figured out?
Kind of as soon as they get them to me. And again, a couple things happen this time of year. It's elections, and then you also have, till everybody balances their budget. and they feel comfortable that they have a balanced budget, and then I'll get a copy of that.
So 3 months?
I'm hoping within, yeah, once I get it, I'm hoping within a month.
Okay.
Okay, I have nothing on that, we're moving down to number 5, which is, some questions and clarifications that the East Petersburg Borough Council, would like to bring forward to the commission. Number 1 is pretty easy, that's just updating the, contact list to, number 2 is a question about the online training, and I'll allow Karen or Randy or Tammy to chime in on any of these. So, and whoever's able to answer the question will. Number 2 is there was a line item on online training and just an explanation of what that is. It has here part of the question is a breakdown of $6,500 and how does the $6,500 fall into the program cost?
For me, from my perspective, what essentially what it amounts to is one of the things that we're trying to look at, or at least I'm trying to look at, is kind of unification of training that we take, training that's available to us. But also secondary to that is the fact that what we found out through the pandemic in other ways is we have to have alternate means, other means of training. When things get locked down, we can't go out, or even during weather. Vector Solutions is something I'm familiar with. It's something that I've used in the past. Some of the departments have actually used a modified version of it. And I started to contact, I'm actually familiar with the folks that own Vector Solutions, and I called them about the possibility of doing it for the 3 departments. I wanted to do it. I can do it. I can do I can do refresher training for myself on there, where there's bloodborne pathogens and all this, that kind of stuff. And quite frankly, folks, I looked at that and I thought, you know what? I'm trying to bring 3 departments together. And I'm going to do online training, and I'm going to say, I have it, but you don't.
Can they not get it through their individual fire departments?
They can, but it's just like, again, here we go again. We're going to say we want them to work together and buy fire hose together. But now we're going to say, I want you to buy Target Solutions separately. So I'm confused. So I thought it was best if, given the, again, economies of scale, if you put it out there, you get a price, you get a good price. In negotiation and discussing with them, with the 3 departments, the original price that came out was basically I was quoted $6,500. The price that I got the quote today after kind of strong arming, well, I got it the other day, but the price that we got now is $5,735. That includes, that's for 60 members. So it'll be roughly 20 members per department is what it averages. That comes out to, that's $89 per member. And everybody gets an annual maintenance fee. That's for their infrastructure, that's for their, the other thing that's nice about this setup is the fact that with this system, we can upload some of our own internal training on the Vector solution. So for example, when I do the training on the reserve apparatus, we could actually film that, we could video that, or put bullet points or something like that. That can be uploaded onto this system. And then we can send that out to everybody. Everybody that signed up on it now has the opportunity to look at that. They can do that.
Doesn't each fire department budget for their own training?
They do. I don't get into what their particular, like, I don't want to speak for them in terms of what their, some have memberships to the fire school to do burn sessions. Burn sessions are expensive. I don't want to go into them and say, hey guys, let's take your money that you have allocated for the burns and let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's kind of why I didn't want to get into what they had allocated, what they had budgeted, because these are discussions that they've had over a period of time.
So basically, you're saying this would be in addition to what they're already budgeting for.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Hey, John. I totally agree with what you're trying to do there. But that is not covered under the commission agreement. That is not part of the definition of the program costs. So the solution I see to that is that we need to make an amendment to the agreement to support that kind of stuff if you want to do that. I don't see that covered in the program costs at all. I want to see you do it, but as it is, as the agreement's written right now, that's not covered. So based on that, it can't be in the budget.
So I guess I'd like to hear from the chiefs. Do you guys find value in this program?
I'm not a chief, but I do. I actually run this version that we currently have in our department in a conjunction with Josh. And this allows our membership to do administrative training as well as some other trainings like bloodborne pathogens that we wouldn't have another way. So all of our membership are required to have sexual harassment training this year. That's the first time we've required that because we haven't had the tools to offer that to our members. And that's really important, that type of training as well as some others. So I find it to be very useful. People can do it on their own time. They can do it at home. I've done it at home with my kids. I don't have to sacrifice time to go to the firehouse to do it. I think that it's very beneficial for our department.
I echo what she says.
Person we speak who teaches the bloodborne pathogens and the harassment training, it's very difficult to get everyone together all at the same time. So a solution like this allows us to either use their training or put our training online. And so instead of me having to do 15 different trainings, some one-offs and here and there, it allows the members to be able to do it when they're available to do it. In the past, we've strived for a goal to get 100% of our membership trained in bloodborne pathogens yearly. It's very difficult to make that happen, and I'll tell you, it does not happen. Something like this would make that more attainable.
On average, how much do you spend on training? Like a year? Like what, do you have a ballpark?
Our training budget comes out of two places, both the relief and the fire department. And I don't know that I have a number now. I don't know if you remember the number.
Yeah, John, because it varies so much throughout the year.
Correct.
Because classes come up and we put people in those classes to get them recertified, and Con Ed's a big thing. You know, if this program would help do Con Ed for all three departments, that would be huge.
Right.
It's always hard to get those kind of instructors in the house to do that. So to answer your question, I don't.
That's okay. I mean, because I think it's important, like, John, what you're saying is that everyone works together and gets the training that they need. And I just think that the underlying concern is the fact that it's posted on the chief fire official budget. You know what I mean? I don't
And we're,
know.
right, and we're not saying that we don't feel it's beneficial, it's just not in the agreement. And I'm pretty sure that's what Randy was getting at.
Exactly.
Yeah, we feel it's very beneficial.
Yes.
We're not disputing that. It's the fact that it's not in the agreement, but yet it's on the CFO budget. And that is what we're questioning.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this right, I think you have a municipal to municipal issue here, not a fire commission issue. Is that a fair understanding?
Yes, that would be a
The fire
fair
commission
statement.
is supposed to make recommendations back to the government entity. So that's what why we're talking about this, and why we brought this up. It's not appropriate to be in that budget. But it's certainly open to discussion to add it as amendment to the commission agreement. And please, I am totally in support of getting this training, but where the budget that's being put in is not appropriate at this time. Because there's no amendment that supports that. It's not included in the program cost. Clearly spelled out in the agreement.
So that's, we can take a look at that, Randy. I think the bigger issue, if we do make changes to it, we're gonna have this kind of back and forth over every little issue.
It's not going to be every other little issue. We've got specific things we have questions on.
Okay.
That's why we have the items put on the,
On the agenda.
yeah. So that's why we're going through this. I mean, we're not gonna nitpick every single thing. There's specific items that we have questions on.
Well,
That's
and
why
to
we're
be-
trying to go through this right now.
And to be fair, the budget that we received in August's meeting, and I understand that it came up, you know what I mean, like, whenever it came up, I don't remember the ins and outs of it, but, you know, we received a copy of the budget in August's meeting without this one, and then another one, so then we could have it meeting the agreement, the fire commission agreement, you know, timeline by September 15th. Then we received one at council or committee meeting on October 28th, that this is the one that we received. So this is significantly different from what we received in August's meeting here at commission.
It was about $1,500 to $2,000 difference. I
It's
believe.
1551.
Okay.
And is that primarily the 6,500, is that the difference?
Yes.
And it may just be the point, the commission needs to grow and evolve a little bit.
Yes, the training was the difference there.
So you have no problem paying for the training, but you want the agreement to be amended to include the training? Is that correct?
I think the municipalities need to discuss. an
Right,
amendment
they would
the
need to
agreement.
decide if they want to include that, but it should be in there if that's the route we're going to go.
Is it
Yes.
considered coordinated training? If they're all receiving? I would take this as the chief fire official taking a step towards coordinated training, okay. A, B, the initial agreement where the fleet plan is mentioned, that has come up as a topic numerous times. Coordinated training is on the list of things that his office is tasked with doing. So I wouldn't say that it's not referenced at all.
It's not covered under the program cost. That's an item, a to-do item for the chief, but it's not covered under the program cost.
I'm lost with this because I'm looking at this, provide for the required funding of the commission and the program. Basically, what it gets back to is that's exactly what it will be, is we're gonna do nitpicking of every little thing because it's telling me that if I find something that I think is of value that we can do jointly, collectively.
Well, we're getting to, this is gonna be more important as we get on here and get through the items. But let me read this. Program cost sharing. Each municipality shall share in the cost of salary and benefit package, including costs of employer paid taxes, workers' compensation insurance of the chief and other staff members of the HAFSC and the expenses of the program, collectively the program costs on a prorated basis. Okay, so what that defined there, it doesn't say anything about training for the fire departments. It doesn't say anything about sharing cost in the purchase of new apparatus. My point is that it's not specifically broken out, and we need to do that in this amendment, as an amendment to this agreement, so that it's not a question in the future. Let's figure this out now.
It says the expenses of the program, as defined earlier, the chief shall develop the program through coordination of a plan for operation of fire services, including but not limited to, and it lists out all those things. It does say that it will develop this plan under the direction of the board of directors, which is why we're discussing it here.
Which section are you looking at there?
He's looking at, it's on page 5, 8B.
To me, shall develop a program through coordination of a plan for the operation of fire services, including but not limited to. Everything after that, to me, is what defines the program.
I don't see anything in there that covers, that makes that fall under cost as part of the program cost. Develop it for the departments.
Program cost sharing, each municipality shall share in the cost of the salary and benefit package, including costs of employer pay taxes and workers' compensation insurance of the chief and other staff members of the HAFSC, and the expenses of the program, collectively the program costs.
And I just read that.
Right.
And program cost sharing, that says nothing, even in section 8B, says nothing specifically about covering training for the departments or purchase of apparatus and
Yeah,
so on.
because it's.
I don't
saying that-
interpret that as being part of that.
It says that we're gonna share in the costs of the program. The program is defined above. Because municipalities agreed to hire a chief fire official to develop that program under the guidance of this board.
So, let me just back up a minute. I think the whole reason that we formed this commission was to take a regional look at fire services. Each one of our fire departments answer calls to many other different municipalities. I know probably half of the calls that they answer from East Hempfield go to other places. That's why we wanted to be regional. I think the second thing we wanted to do was to take a burden off of the fire departments, administration, funding, that kind of stuff. I think the issue that's raised here tonight is a municipal to municipal issue. And I don't think we need to be burdening the fire departments who already volunteer a great deal of their time and get paid nothing for it. And to go through here and pick out a budget, $1,500 there, $2,000 there. I think the best course of action with this stuff is, let East Hempfield and East Petersburg get together and fight it out. Come to an agreement and move forward.
That's what we are supposed to do. That's why we are here right now. The fire companies are here, but the government entities, we are the commission that's supposed to figure out those details and go back to the borough and the township with what we recommend. Is that why we're here? Or are we just here to talk and burn through an agenda and then say, see you till next month?
Well, Randy, I mean, I guess that's one way of looking at it, but I would say looking at what we've accomplished so far and looking at things that we have come together with and done would be another way. I mean, the agreement is what it is. We don't have the ability to change it here. The municipalities have agreed to it. They're going to be the ones that have to change
Are
it.
you even hearing what I'm saying? We're supposed to go back to our borough and township with recommendations. Of course, we can't make those changes here. We go back and say, this is what we feel we should do.
So you guys would take it back to your group, we would take it back to our council. This is what happened at commission meeting. Let's see what we can do about getting an amendment to the fire service agreement.
And I agree.
We're not
It
making
shouldn't, it
decisions
should be at the
here.
government level. It should not be at the fire
Absolutely.
department level.
I guess my question
I would
is,
like the floor, please, and I would like to suggest, looking ahead at the agenda, there are a number of questions about finance in here we won't resolve in this committee tonight.
Oh, I
And I
know.
think it would be appropriate for East Petersburg Borough Council with members of the commission to prepare a detailed list of requests regarding the agreement as it stands. East Hempfield has no problem with the agreement as it stands, but we will listen if there are things that you have, because it's not an agreement if you're not in agreement. But we need an understanding that it's fruitless to sit here and talk about things as we have the last 15, 20 minutes. So please, let us have detailed suggestions or positions about where East Petersburg Borough is with this agreement, and we will respond.
Oh, you saw the items on the agenda. We haven't gotten to those to discuss those yet.
I see no point in it.
You just saying, you don't see any point in continuing at this point?
Pardon?
You don't see any point in continuing at this point?
I see no point in discussing things as we did here, where we're reading things differently. And I say, East Hempfield has no problem with the verbiage of the agreement, the conditions, the right of the chief fire official to do things in his purview to get a commission going. But if there are things that are not satisfactory to East Petersburg Borough, they need to be put in a formal thing from the borough to East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors and be resolved. And there is a motion, a note in this to bring the Borough Council and the Board of Supervisors of East Hempfield together. But we need to have you bring a list of things, and there they can be resolved in the agreement.
But I would also comment that this is an advisory board, we have a brainstorming sessions, things like that.
Well, that's my advice.
And to come here, and do that, and take things back to, the borough council as well as the board of supervisors. But I also do agree that there needs to be some one-on-one conversations between the borough and the township. So I just think it's, commission's getting to the point where it needs to probably grow and evolve to the next level or take the next step. And some of these are just things, topics of discussion.
And I think we stated that in here on our agenda. I mean, if you look at
4A, right?
4A, I mean, we have it in there to schedule a meeting between the two municipalities and to discuss all the financial.
I'm aware of that, and that's what I believe can be the recommendation of this commission regarding these matters.
But we did discuss, and, I feel as if East Pete is being dismissed with their concerns that were brought to the agenda this evening. I don't want to be dismissed with
Tammy, how
some
long do you want to
concerns.
argue over $1,500?
I'm not arguing, we're bringing up concerns that is relevant to East Pete Borough and our residents.
Well, let's hear them out. Let's run through them. Go.
All right, so the first thing was yellow on training. We already talked about the apparatus schedule. We already talked about scheduling a meeting between the township and the borough.
Are they in agreement with it?
Scheduling a meeting, I think that's what we just said.
And I think would it be okay that Karen and Cindy work together to coordinate that meeting?
Yep, we can do that. And one thing that we all need to consider here, it's very important that we keep the fire company out of the financial end. That is not what, they're there to fight fires, do what they do best. I think the financial has to come from us.
I think that's what Ed and I were trying to say.
Yeah. So, for us to set up a meeting, yes, we need to do that. And I will coordinate that with Cindy.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that also.
I agree.
And that's what I've been trying to say. I'm sorry if you guys missed the point that I was trying to make, but that's the point I was trying to make. We should be doing this, not the fire companies.
Let the fire company do what they do best and let the others handle the other part. So the other thing is just a breakdown or a more detailed explanation of the program costs. And that here again can happen between the two municipalities. And then there was a question about $13,000 on the budget for the vehicle. I think that was equipment outfitting.
Correct.
Do we have more specific questions about that or?
I would guess we were looking for just a breakdown of what's covered in the 13,000. Just a little more detail.
I give that to Karen, but I can relay the information.
Yeah, I know it was like 9,000 for the lease itself. A lock key,
The lockbox.
lockbox of $1,500.
Yep.
And the rest, I can't remember. I'm sorry. Yeah, gas meter, that's what it was. Yes.
Okay, so we've gotten that explanation.
Yes,
Okay.
and we did discuss that. Tammy, Randy, or John, do you guys have any comments on that?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Was there a question about the benefits? Cost discrepancy in that?
Yes, Cindy and I are working on that. I did submit a formal request to her, and that is something they will talk about at their next meeting.
Okay,
Yes, she has that information.
good. Thank you.
Then moving on to number 7, just this overall strategic plan. And then the sub item of that was the group subcommittee meeting. And we talked about that earlier, just to be able to update on a monthly basis what's going on with that. So,
When are we gonna meet again, do you know, with finance?
I guess the big thing is gonna be, you look at the 3 committees apparatus. We can talk about it, but I think the meeting has to occur between municipalities first. The second thing is recruitment and retention. I don't know what I can do because we have to find out what the municipalities want to do as far as funding. And then the last committee is funding. So I'm gonna have to wait for the, here we're at.
but basically on the subcommittee, there probably would be on hold until sometime next year.
The finance committee, I mean, we can certainly, once I get the budget, we could meet then and review that. That's something we could certainly do. And I'm not opposed to doing that, and we can all get a better grasp of what that is.
Hey, John, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Recruiting and retention only met once, and basically it was kind of a brainstorming session. Nothing, we haven't met since then. There's been no contact or discussions about that. What are you, I mean, you're funding wise, we had not discussed any funding for that. Not saying that that wouldn't be appropriate, but there was we never got to the point where we even discussed that, what that might look like.
The tough part is, Randy, is the fact that it depends on what program and what we decide we want to offer. If you're doing a LoSAP program, or if we're doing some kind of a, savings program, whatever, it really depends on what, what we can accomplish. I have, in the very first meeting I handed out was the guesstimate that was from BFIS. That was an upfront, expense. Again, is one of the reasons why I wasn't so sure if we had the appetite for that. That was, I think, to initially fund the program, I think it was $300-some thousand that had to be front loaded into the program, because you have members that essentially they've served for multiple years and we tend to grandfather them in. So we have to have those front end costs in the LoSAP program. So that's quite an expenditure. The savings program, again, what I'm doing there is working with some of our state representatives as well as some actual IRS folks to figure out, where we have to go with that to be able to do the type of program that we're looking at doing. Essentially, you sign on as a volunteer firefighter and you do a 10-year contract, and in 10 years, this money comes to you. Well, as it stands right now, that would be some kind of other fund, and you would be taxed to the hilt for that. Well, I don't really want to say, hey, here's the money, but gosh, it all went to taxes. Thanks for your service. So it may not come to fruition, but it's going to take political leaders to look at it and say, can we make a special exemption for volunteer firefighters? So they're difficult. Everybody that I've spoken to said, yep, it's a great idea. We don't think it's ever going to pay us. Where does that leave us? So it's just there's not a lot of, there's canned programs. We could certainly do that. My fear is, as I've said before, it's not working. The current programs are not working, and we have to think outside the box. And then we hit financial snafus, in terms of, like I said, we give them the money and then they get taxed.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, and then number 8 was Borough Council had recommended going back to monthly meetings.
I'll speak to that because I was the one that had suggested that to begin with. And essentially, I'm the guy, I serve as chair on every committee. And until I get the dates out for all the committees, everybody has their other meetings that they have to attend. So we actually have the time to meet and then actually have a vital report that we can provide back to the commission. The goal here, folks, again, and I've heard this from several people, and I'll just bring it up. People are saying this commission, we haven't done anything. Well, we have. We've identified the three biggest items that are affecting the fire service in our municipalities: apparatus, funding, recruitment, retention. So we developed working groups to look at it. An apparatus replacement schedule has been developed. We address the reserve apparatus to fill the needs if an apparatus goes out of service. From recruitment retention, we have ideas. Those ideas are being spun off to other people outside this organization to figure out, can we do it? Is it something we can do, or do we have to stick to a canned LoSAP program? But it all comes down, again, it comes down to funding. And then that's the last piece. The third piece of the puzzle is, and I'm essentially waiting for the budgets, is to see what the actual cost of municipalities is. We talk about fire tax, we talk about different things like that. What's our overall cost to the system?
Okay, well, thank you, John. Before we open up public comment, anybody else have anything like?
I had a question, in East Peaks, one of your last borough council meetings, you referred to a bunch of the members on the committee as bumps on a log or bums on a log. I was wondering which ones were the bumps on the log.
That was just in a moment of frustration is what I said it, and I apologize to anybody I offended by saying that. But it has been hard to get with this patient, so that was what some of my frustration was at. But, you know, if I insulted or offended anyone, yeah, my apology.
Let me speak to the item on the agenda, the reverting to every month. I guess I would suggest that that is also on hold until we can have the meeting between the Borough Council and the Board of Supervisors, work out the details, and then we can go to this question again. If we need monthly meetings, absolutely, we have monthly meetings, but I think that question needs to go on hold for the time being.
Yeah, and I would definitely echo that. I mean, I have no problem meeting twice a month if we actually need to have a meeting. But to have a meeting just to have a meeting, I think just everybody here is giving them their time. And just have a meeting doesn't make sense to me, so.
So we just want to kind of go around and see what everybody's thoughts are, and then they'll.
Let me make that a motion.
Okay. Ed has a motion to put the meeting on hold until January.
Till we have the
Until we have the financial meeting between the two municipalities.
Okay.
which I hope will be expedited and resolved.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion so carried. I don't know, let's kind of do the round robin here and stuff. Karen, do you have anything you'd like to share?
No, I'm good.
Craig?
No,
Amber? Randy?
I have nothing.
Mark? Josh? Billy? No. Tammy? Scott?
No.
Myself? Ed?
Done.
Josh? Cindy, John, Diane? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Hearing none, I shall adjourn the meeting.